Tony, Skylar, Jimmy, happy holidays. It's great to see you guys. Thanks for coming on here. We got a lot to talk about. Tony, are you in California?
I am. I am in
Okay.
California, and I am not worried about a polar vortex.
Okay. Yep. That's what I was just going to say. It's nice here in Illinois. Hopefully those Rivian factory team gets home safe tonight. We've got a lot to talk about, and we're going to have a guest on soon. Mason, he might just kind of fly in here mid-stride, which is fine if he does. But we have some news this week. Can you tell us what happened and just tell us the reaction? Take it
Absolutely.
away.
Yeah, thanks so much for allowing us to hop back on with you. It's
Mhm.
always really great to have the chance to amplify message or clarify message as we sort of learn and see what customers are taking from our outbound. So earlier this week, we shared an email with thousands of our R1T pre-order holders that had all previously configured quad max pack vehicles, and also followed that up with a blog post that was posted recently that provides more detail and depth on a new variant that was introduced, an enhanced dual motor max, along with the standard dual motor max. So essentially, in that email, we updated a few things. Most importantly, that we're removing the quad max from the configurator in January, and in its place, we'll be offering standard dual max, enhanced dual max to those customers. And both of those options really maintain the range estimates. Both are quite highly capable. And the reason we're bringing Mason on, we're bringing a product engineer that can really talk about performance. So I'll save that for him to kind of dig into because it's fun. And it also then decreases the price tag for those customers that are locked into a pricing commitment with us. So essentially that's the orders before 3/1 and orders between 3/2 and 5/25. That's sort of how those emails were sent out in segments. We let customers know that there's no action necessary unless they want to move to quad large pack of R1s, which is the fastest delivery. And we've actually seen quite a few takers. Once this news came out, we've seen quite a few customers reconfigure to that variant. And then the final piece is that then the action for customers will come in early Q1 when all of these changes are loaded into the configurator. We chose to do this now rather than waiting for everything to be live in the configurator because there's a thought process for a lot of folks that are buying a vehicle like this.
Mhm.
And sending the email now with some information, giving customers a flavor of the options that are going to be online in 2023 was really important to us. So that it isn't a surprise in January when you have a choice to make. The configurator would be live. You'd have to, sort of weigh back and forth which button are you going to press. This gives some folks some downtime to think through what's best for them, range, performance, cost, and also some time to formulate questions that they would then pose back to our team.
Makes a ton of sense, and I realize maybe we can dig in a little bit deeper with
Mhm.
Mason, but I'm interested in some of the technical details around the dual motor architecture and options. Um, in general, though, so for those long-term pre-order holders that had a max pack configured as a quad, the pricing is actually going down on the dual motor max pack options, either one of them, correct?
That's right. I can just read them so I keep them very straight for you. Should I do that?
Mhm. That'd be
Absolutely.
great.
Great. So for customers that placed a pre-order on or before March 1st of 2022, switching from quad motor plus max pack to standard dual motor plus max pack. One day we're going to get really short names, I think. Will reduce price by $4,500. Switching from quad motor max to enhanced dual motor max will reduce the price by $2,000. So dual motor, standard dual motor, minus 4,500, enhanced dual motor, minus 2,000. And then those customers in that sort of in-between phase between, the pre-3/1 and reservation holders, they would see a difference of $6,000 and $1,000 respectively.
Awesome.
Makes sense. And then I'm sure that there have been some questions that have come into, the customer engagement center and probably other places as well. What types of questions are you hearing from the community?
Sure. So one of the things that was clarified in the blog post that went up later this week was what type of enhancement are we talking about? It's a software enhancement, so that's made really clear in the blog post, which I think is great. And then the questions that we always get are really more around delivery timing. There are customers that really want to be able to make these changes now so that they can then lock in and understand in January for the next delivery window update what their timing looks like. So we sort of, I think, again, it felt like a lot of the questions were rather clear, were answered in the copy, but we started to get into the standard Q&A, which is really like, okay, cool, but when can I get mine? We did hear a lot of feedback around the pricing aspect of it. So that seemed to satisfy at least some of our customers. And then there's a question around in the letter. It mentions that in the future we would have a Quad Max variant reintroduced. But there is no information on that today. I don't have timing on that or a roadmap marker to say that our product engineering team is working on this right now as we speak. That will come back in a new pricing set. It will come back later, and I don't expect to see it in 2023. So we tried to make that clear in the email. But the team where we were not clear enough, the team has been making that clear for anyone that has called, chatted, or emailed in as follow-up.
And it sounds like for those that start maybe with the standard dual motor and choose to maybe want a little more, we'll call it spice, because it's software based, is that something that we can be able to purchase for the additional 25 hundo in order to get some more flavor?
Yeah, we absolutely will owe a ton more information on that and how that would happen from a commerce perspective. Haven't even begun to spend time on working through that particular piece. But the team will sort of design how that plays its way into the configurator in the future as an option as well. Generally, there is intent to do so. Still mapping out those details. So we'll come back and talk to you about that when we have more information.
So Tony,
Gotcha.
if you can buy more dual motor spice, can you buy more quad motor spice?
I have not
Well-
heard of the ability to buy more quad motor spice.
Well, in that case, we're going to kick it over to Mason. Maybe Mason will know.
What's up, Mace?
Mason, how are you?
What's up, Mason?
It's great to meet you. Thanks so much for being here. We hear you've been around Rivian for at least a couple minutes, right?
Yeah, you guys too. I feel like I'm old with you watching all the videos.
Mace, you're like employee. You were just hired yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Mason, were you hired before me and Skylar ordered our R1Ss? That's a good question. That's some trivia. That was November 2018. Do you predate us?
I do. Yes.
Oh man, that's
By
awesome.
so much, he's been here longer than some of your children are in age.
That's awesome.
Love it.
Mason, we do appreciate you being here with us. And I don't know what kind of time constraints you have, but I know you're coming straight from a meeting, probably going to a meeting. And so we're right into the thick of a conversation. But I think that Skylar in particular has some questions for you that would really zone in on some engineering. So take it away, Skylar.
Well, kind of first and foremost, Mason, I'd love to hear kind of your general thoughts about the dual motor architecture in general. The blog post answered, I think, one of my questions today, but I'll ask you that one later. So let's start off just talking a little bit about the dual motor architecture and thoughts about it.
Yeah. So the dual motor architecture, I guess, this Rivian in particular, we had a really good understanding of our product by the time it came around. In the case of the quad motor system, originally we were developing it and learning about the vehicle and really testing it in parallel to the vehicle. When it comes to the single motor, we knew the application very well. We knew the package fit straight, and we really just wanted to execute this all-wheel drive system with all that knowledge of what it takes to perform well on the R1 platform and EDB. So the dual motor architecture, it's still all-wheel drive, so one at the front, one at the back. We have pretty close to the the straight line performance of the quad system. Left a bit of margin there, but really it's very capable in all the situations you're going to see on a daily basis. You can get right through it and you think, wow, this is great. It's using, front to rear auto connect, disconnecting the rear for efficiency. It's sending more torque to the front of the rear based on traction. If it's a steep climb or a rocky, terrain, where you're canyon carving or changing the modes between sport, or conserve. It's got a lot of technology baked in. And on those rock crawl situations, we can also grab individually at each corner, grab the brakes and provide some amount of torque differentiation left to right.
Awesome.
So it's got, I think a lot of people talk about torque vector. And when it comes to the quad, that's our ultimate, tool, within the propulsion system to control it at each wheel. So with the dual motor all-wheel drive, you're getting a very capable all-wheel drive system. Through control, we can still dictate how much torque do we want at the front or the back based on traction or optimizing towards efficiency. And then with the brakes, we get that final last little lever of, I've got a wheel in the air and spinning on this rocky terrain. Let me grab that spinning tire with that individual corner's brake and get about half the torque to go, in some cases a bit more, but roughly half the torque back to the wheel still on the ground. So even on those, rough terrain type environments that the dual motor can perform, I can't wait to spend more seat time in it. But from the time I've had, you can basically get through all the obstacles and you think this is great. What could be better? And the only time you'd say I have something is you go drive the quad. So it's a really, it was a long-winded answer, but it's an interesting topic to cover because how do you compare the two unless you have seat time? So I always approach it from that mentality of what have I felt driving the two, but I think it's that will be the ultimate decision maker for anyone thinking about which one do I want and what are the differences? Why can't you just write them in numbers on paper? It's really a feel thing. Like if you go drive the quad, you're going to get this just seamless performance, and whether you're crawling or carving through the the canyons or 0 to 60 inclement weather, like it's a feel thing. To really get a sense of what the two are like, it's got to come and drive it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So brake actuated traction management. And I know that other vehicles in the market, there are some phenomenal systems out there and that can work really, really well. Should we take that to mean that is the only, traction tool in there, or is there a chance that we might see lockers either when dual motor is released or further down the line?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's a future statements. For brush.
He tried with me too, Mace. I got to defer to you, and I guess you're deferring to RJ now. So we'll ask RJ next time we see him.
Yeah, it's being looked at always. Program plans will follow up.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Tony, you're aware, and I don't know, Mason, if you saw, it was our first video we did with Tony where I had mentioned, maybe it was even offline, about quad motor, max pack being completely deleted, period. So it's great to see that the max is still alive. In Rivian Stories today, one of our more into the community members had made a statement that the really cool part about the max pack all-wheel drive dual motor is about 95% of the performance, about with a 30% increase in overall range. And when you factor in, like when you think about all that, it's actually it's a pretty sweet deal. I mean, as far as like the package that you're getting for you.
And that's my thought as well, is these vehicles already are more capable than 98% of customers will
99.
probably use them, both
Yes,
on-road and off-road.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, the dual motor is going to be a phenomenal package. And that's if I was to buy another one today, I would probably opt for a more efficient, longer range dual motor, but that's with the quad motor already in my garage too.
Well,
So
hey, we can sign you up for round two. I think that's part of the reason I'm particularly proud of our product team and our engineers. They've spent their time to think about more choice. So this did not, Jimmy. You did ask that question on the first time I think it was after we hung up from the first recording. And the goal really was to bring back more options. So you have those that are focused on price, you have those that are focused on range, you have those that are focused on performance, and a mixture in between. And this really does provide additional options for customers to really think through what they need in the vehicle that they're purchasing. And then also more optionality for those that are coming back for their second Rivian, and in the future, maybe their third Rivian as well.
I'll echo what all three of you just said as far as Mason saying, man, comparing the two side by side, you have to kind of keep going back and forth. And so in my mind, I would definitely go towards the range that Jimmy mentioned. That's amazing to pick up some range with such a negligible feel of loss in performance, because compared to my '01 Tahoe, I'm just still loving it. Sometimes I have to drive my wife's Honda and I come back and it's just unbelievable. It's so good. And to kick it back to Mason, for the YouTube audience who might not know, or they maybe just coming on to this from the very beginning, wouldn't know that this dual motor is an in-house built motor called Enduro, correct? And it seems like from what I've heard, or just the reactions that you see on Instagram of like RJ testing out dual motor Enduro, it seems like it over-delivered what they expected. Mason, do you want to talk about any of that?
Yeah. And in-house is a very, very huge opportunity for us. So basically by harvesting more of those decisions, and RJ talks all the time about thousands of decisions to make a vehicle. Same is true within that drive unit, right? So the quicker you can speed up the closed loop of a decision-making process, and just back and forth with teammates, whether it's in person or on Zoom, just having that ability to collaborate was a huge enabler, especially on the single motor drive unit. So it's functionally integrated. We basically put the three major subsystems, inverter, motor, and gearbox, all in the same casting. And part of what enables that to be successful is just the fact that all your partners in delivering it are right inside the team, folks that you can just, collaborate with super quickly. So that was the, I guess, development experience of it. And then also, unlike the previous programs, just having a clear slate of like, here's when we're looking to have this, here's exactly what we want out of the system. And Tony mentioned like expanding the breadth of customers we can reach with the R1 platform. I love the quad. I'm always going to be an advocate for it, but not everyone needs that. It's a unfortunate, simple truth. And having a solution that, allows our vehicle to impact more people and get out there and push towards electrification is huge. And the single motor, we took that kind of challenge head on and said, between those three subsystems, how do we functionally integrate, because we can, make those decisions together to deliver it. So it was a super fun project to be a part of. And there's a whole, with all those subsystems, huge teams behind this. So it's been exciting to grow with the team and with the product on this ride.
And
It is.
I'm super excited that you guys were still able to get 700 horsepower and over 700 pound-feet of torque out of two motors when that's approaching what the quad motor does with four. So anyway, hats off. Great job, guys. I do have one more question about dual motor. Is it a 400 plus volt architecture or 800 plus volt architecture?
Yeah, it is, because it's sharing into the platform we have today with the R1, which is at that 400 volts. That's where we initially, set it to operate. We started the program, looking at higher voltages. So that's always kind of on the horizon, but it's this complex puzzle of products you're building today that want to convert timing of that and programs. But for the time being, it'll be the 450 volt DC nominal version of single motor driving it.
Excellent.
Thanks for that question as well. That is one of the other questions that we've heard at the Customer Engagement Center. So that's a great one to pose as well.
There's one other thing that I would love to get Rivian's feedback on while we're talking about the motors and the architecture. And it's that, you know, Rivian recently said that the range is going to be increased on the existing R1s. And I think, number one, I think that's amazing. I think a lot of the early speculation was that was going to be releasing more power out of, you know, the battery buffer, but it sounds like that's efficiency improvements. Is that right? Or can you guys provide any clarity around that?
Yeah, I don't have the full recipe of how that was, you know, what all went into that. I know for sure range is a super cross functional thing. So it's, you know, a series of things that led to that overall number gain. I know that a lot of that was energy management and just software optimization, like when you're cruising down the road or parked, or charging, like any operating state of the vehicle, what can you turn off or how can you optimize, you know, only using energy where it's absolutely needed. So that I know it was a big effort, but in terms of the whole package of what led to that number, I can't comment.
No, fair enough. And I don't know. Did you guys, Jimmy, Kyle, or Tony, see range increases yet? Like with the latest OTA? I don't think that I have.
No,
I
nothing on the
haven't
guessometer
looked
at
yet.
least yet.
It's a great question.
My wife's been
Okay.
hogging my R1S since literally, yeah, I'm seriously. She's like always driving it now. So I haven't
I've been on
seen
the
it.
road, so I haven't been driving as much, but I will be back to it this weekend.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and Kyle, you better say that your wife has been lovely ladying your R1S lately, because
I will say
Yeah.
she does look phenomenal in it. I'm not gonna lie. Like, yep, she looks great. Jimmy, what are you thinking? I'll come over to you, but I wanted to kind of rewind a little bit, and this is probably more for Tony, but just because I keep thinking of people who are just hearing this for the first time and stumbling on this video. Right now, we know that these options are arriving in early 2023. Tony, do you want to speak as far as when these configurations might be in the delivery window, or are we just not there?
Yeah, I think what I can say about the delivery window is that we're going to try to prioritize these Quad Max customers. Many of them are some of our longest standing pre-order holders. So one of the things around delivery timing is that we are going to, those in a serviceable area, we're going to try to prioritize them to be the earliest deliveries that we make of these vehicles. So we will have a lot more detail when we update the next delivery window timing in account. So I think that's coming in January. The goal for the configurator, earliest we'll see it up and running in the configurator, all of these changes would be January. I do want to give our digital teams a little bit of flex time there, for early Q1.
You mentioned more options. Is there any thought, or has there been any thought, if you can answer, as far as like maybe a 3-motor variant R1 or something that may, or is it not really? I guess it's not really necessary, just because you can do so much with software, and you guys have gotten the dual motor as close as you have to the quad motor. I guess I'm curious if, like, was that ever a consideration? If you can.
Yeah, I guess from a motor standpoint, certainly, right? We already have a dual motor system where we got one in the front, one in the rear. We have quads that can go front and rear. So from like an integration standpoint, it's always kind of on the table to do something like a try. The parts exist, the integration exists. There'll be some validation and like calibration effort for sure to go through some of that final vehicle level testing. But the pieces kind of exist to do that if we choose to. At the moment, no plan to do that. With the dual and the quad, we're kind of, as Tony talked about, like putting ourselves at two different tiers of performance and tiers of price that should be able to, bring in all the customers we need to keep the line busy for sure. So we haven't done on that road, but it's kind of something that it's sitting there. Should we figure out it makes sense in the market?
Great answer. For now, Jimmy, they need to keep things simple and
Oh,
get
no
as
doubt.
many people their vehicles as possible, right?
We have
But
so many vehicles to
right.
produce. Let's keep it simple.
So
Skylar,
true.
why couldn't I find the words? That was beautiful.
No, you found the right words. I'm just putting it in
Yep.
Jimmy language, something Jimmy can understand.
Yeah.
Love you, buddy.
Love you, but
Skylar, do you have any other questions?
No, I think I'm good. I have one kind of after call question for Mason.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Um,
So good. Kyle,
Yeah.
if I could just hit a couple notes really quickly.
Yeah, please do. Yep.
Yeah. So, one of the things I thought we could also just mention really quickly, there's a lot we're very excited about as we move into 23. So we've set the stage with some of our major product updates. I feel very confident that once the configurator is updated, our product roadmap will be clear to all of our customers, pre-order holders and reservation holders alike. And we will start continuing to see production ramp, which means the opportunity to get more customers through the purchasing process is kind of upon us. The Rivian shop early next year will be used even more frequently with more customers. So we spent a lot of 2022 talking about customers with flexibility, customers that just wanted their vehicle as fast as possible. Like, give me anything, I'll take it quickly. We will leverage the Rivian shop, the R1 shop, as the place where customers can actually just express choice and express that flexibility. So we will continue to invite customers into the shop in order of serviceability. Are you in a location where we can service and deliver? And your pre-order date. So we're just going to leverage that. And over time, each week, we're just going to invite hundreds of more customers into the shop when there are vehicles available. You'll see R1Ss added to the shop as well at the beginning of next year. So I think it'll make it a more compelling place for the totality of our pre-order holders. And then we're going to get closer to inviting reservation holders in. As we all know, we're building some of these vehicles in batches, which means there might be a vehicle that is not tied specifically to Kyle or Skylar yet. And so that may mean the early reservation holders would then be invited in to make their first purchases. So in January, I do hope that our teams are able to test that out. Some of the last tests that we did in 2022, set people into, a little bit of a fury. Don't worry, we're going to test it out and we'll communicate very clearly when we're going to start inviting reservations holders in as a whole, but we owe them some good information and better information on timing also. So excited to get to that place. But those are just a couple of the things that we're looking at in 2020 and 2023. In addition to just continuing to simplify the purchase process, making sure that the Visual Studio and the configurator are really clean and that they're showing customers what we are making now so that they can purchase the things that Rivian is producing now. So I'm very excited about the digital plays that we can make at the beginning of the year, but also just the speed by which we can get customers vehicles that actually are truly flexible.
Awesome. I know that we're out of time. Mason, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on a great product as far as this next step. Tony, congratulations on another hurdle as far as our community. I know we're kind of keep going over, but you guys should really feel proud, especially as we get towards the last week of the year. I know it's probably a little bit busy in your guys' neck of the woods, but
it's go time.
Yeah,
Yes.
you guys should feel proud. I mean, it is kind of mind-boggling just to think about the cars that we have in our driveways, and this is like the first iteration, and all the options that are coming is really exciting. Mason, if we were like just kind of around with drinks, I think that there are a few more questions we would ask. But for here, I think that it's probably appropriate to leave it where it is now. But we really appreciate all your work, Mason and Tony. We know that you guys have been at this for a long time. So just keep going. You guys are doing
No
great.
doubt.
Skylar, Jimmy, thank you guys for your time. And Rachel, if you guys haven't seen her on YouTube, but she's been back helping us as well. So thank you also, Rachel.
And happy holidays and a happy new year to all of our friends at Rivian and obviously all of the Rivian Stories community out there.
Thanks. I hate that I missed the backers meeting earlier today. I hopped on just as it ended. I got a chance to hang out with the guys for a bit, but want to thank you all for all the work that you're doing. Bringing this community together is really special to us. There's something very, very tactile and tangible about what's happening at Rivian and around Rivian. So we're so grateful for the role that you're playing in helping to bring folks together. And we're just really excited about doing more of this in 2023 and continuing to engage very directly with you all and with other owners across the country. Oh, and Canada.
Yeah, that's right.
Correct.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Tony.
Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
Rachel. Thanks, Mason.
Thank you very much.
And